What's up, everybody? We're back in studio. Look at that. Live on IG, live on Facebook. I'm Dave Gluckner. We're 4th and Go winning Wednesday. Got my man 50 grand. What's up, Mark T?
What up, what up? You know what it is? Another winning Wednesday. It's a warm winning Wednesday. It was, 85 degrees at one point today?
It was air conditioning weather.
It was.
I had to turn on the AC, bro.
I had to rock the fan. Just the fan on 3. The fan on 3. Fastest speed.
Oh, not a box fan, right? You at least got a ceiling fan going?
Ceiling fan.
All right. I want to make sure you're not there yet. You graduated from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Good. It's good to be back in the studio. Big reason we're here tonight. NFL Draft 2021 kicks off tomorrow night. I'm telling you, the whole show might go NFL Draft. We are Philly 4 for 4 plus more, but there's so much to talk about. It is one of the unique experiences, the unique events of the entire sporting world, sporting season. So we're just going to rip into it tonight, have some fun. We're going to go 1 through 12. When we get the Eagles pick at 12, we'll dial in where we think they're at. And from there, we'll talk a little bit about some second round, third round potential prospects, and then we'll go outside the box and talk how he does and how he does things that aren't expected. But we'll focus on where, if they stay at 12, where we think they go, and then maybe what the curveballs are after that. You good with that, brother?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Nice.
And then also Mark Drumheller, he should be walking in soon.
Yeah. He'll be here soon. Ex-Drumheller, as you all know him, ex-Drums of Fox the Gambler. He has a lot of good insights, a lot of good angles that he's going to share with us tonight. So let's get right into it. Last year, 2020 was, the weirdest year of our lives, right? You get into it, you start to see, you go out to stores. This time of year last year, it was just full mode pandemic. We're locked in our houses. You're afraid to talk to your neighbors. You don't know what's going on. What the NFL Draft did for us last year was bring back that piece of the world, the piece of our regular lives that we really needed. It was we weren't sure they were going to pull it off. And by the time they pulled it off and what they did on that weekend, late April last year, it was just fantastic. It gave us, the sports we needed. Yep. And I still look back. That will be one of the memories everlasting memories I have of the pandemic, of how well the NFL pulled off that virtual draft last year. And it just gets you more excited for the live event this year in Cleveland. They have some limited numbers, but, like anything we see, recently, limited numbers. Feels like a full house anymore.
Well, and then you think about the fact that they pretty much, you don't need mask outside anymore. Like, stuff like that. It's just kind of all coming full circle as we're about to get there. Just looking back on where we're at, I think I was like a very touch skeptical, but they actually made it work.
They did.
It was definitely like you might have touched on this. Like, it was the first real thing that came back. The NFL was able to go about their season in regular schedule, where baseball, basketball, and hockey all were sidetracked.
Dunzo.
Did not play the same. Nothing was the same. So the NFL, it kind of was able to go on. And now we're, a year later, fast forward. One, we're looking at a completely different Eagles team, so that's going to be interesting to talk about. But two, just we're getting back. We're making our way, The light at the end of the tunnel is starting to shine.
Well,
We're good.
We are good, and some lasting memories last year. I look back at Mike Vrabel. I don't know what the hell was going on in his house, but he had Frozone from the Incredibles standing in the background.
Yeah.
You had Gettleman from the Giants. Looks like he had a basement from just $100,000 house. You had Bill Belichick feeding his dog.
It was just the dog at one point, just sitting at the kitchen table. Like, what? You had Cliff Kingsbury in a dream house.
Yeah.
He was in a dream. Oh, it was unreal.
Right. I mean, so kind of those things, it was just so cool. It brought us back.
It was a different look at things.
It was. But now we get back to a little bit of reality. We get back to the event that we all know and love well. We think of the days when this was held here back in Philly just a short period ago, the year that Patrick Mahomes gets drafted, the year that Deshaun Watson, Dalvin Cook, and we go Derek Barnett. But still, I mean, the energy I walked through there. Yes, Sidney Jones.
I was a fan, but that Achilles tail was
second
tear
round,
was just everything. And of course, I know.
Yeah.
But he was also supposed to be a top 7 pick that year.
Yeah. But we know what it's like to hold an NFL draft and the excitement and energy it brings to the city. And Cleveland's going to be one. I really think they're going to bring it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a fun event. So it kicks off tomorrow night, and let's just get right into it. Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock at number 1. New head coach, Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer.
He gets he takes the bait, right?
I mean,
he gets tempted.
It's a good situation to fall into.
And why do you think he takes that job?
Because he can make it his team, and he's got the number 1 overall pick.
That's the part.
And they've got money.
Yeah, number 1 overall pick, money, absolutely big thing, so he can build. But that number 1 overall pick, and knowing that he can draft a quarterback of the likes of Trevor Lawrence, maybe generational talent, we could say. Some people have the next closest quarterback that McShay had with a similar grade is Andrew Luck of 10 plus years ago, and this guy comes around once. Maybe a decade, maybe more. So that tempted Urban to come back in and see what he could do. Not come back in, but take the job in the NFL, right?
Right.
So is there anyhow, the Jags don't go Trevor Lawrence?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's already got the playbook, so it's been told pretty much.
Yeah.
I know I heard something along those lines. I mean, but how can you not? He really has everything that you could want in a quarterback, all the intangibles, size, durability, deep ball. I mean, he can do it all. This is what we believe to see. Obviously, he's done it against great competition. Even though he's in the ACC, he still had plenty of battles with SEC teams. Obviously, going into the playoffs and winning a national championship and being able to do it. I mean, he's got it. He's got the tools.
So
it's a can't miss.
It's a can't miss. And I look at the first overall pick odds on DraftKings. He's minus 10,000. Okay,
that
put
means
$10,000 to win 100. Nobody's doing that, right? But I'm even surprised it's not higher. And I think the books I was reading that they just couldn't go much higher because there is that little bit of, what do you know? What could happen?
Well, because then nobody would touch it.
One
at all.
Nobody would touch
some
it.
People who will.
And I'm thinking the books are fine if nobody touches, but they're worried about the other odds. And the Fields at plus 33, the Zach Wilson at plus 16, the Mac Jones at plus 100, 100 to 1 being that. I just think that that's how they protect themselves from those bets. So I'm with you. He goes number 1. And I'll say this. My idea of Trevor Lawrence and how he'll, emerge as a pro, I do think he will be a very good pro player. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be fantastic. I like, just to think of all the big games he's already been in. It's similar to what Deshaun Watson was and why people didn't put that stock into Deshaun Watson when he was being drafted. Still boggles the mind. Having that, always being that top dog in that program, you got quarterback. It's a quarterback culture. You got DJ Hegley or whatever coming right behind him. You had Watson in front of him. You just had that competition, and then you get to play the likes of Alabama, Oklahoma. You get the tops in the ACC every year. He's always has to be on his A game. The spotlight's always on him. It's not going to change when it gets to the NFL, and he's going to be ready. And I think he's going to be a fantastic pro. I had very high hopes for Joe Burrow last year as well. Now, Joe Burrow's a little older. That knee injury now impacts it. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence has a higher ceiling, and I think he's a guy that the sky's the limit. He's fantastic. He can run. He has a great leadership quality. It's a once in a decade, couple decade pick.
Yeah.
He's going to be that good. I really believe that. Some of my friends say they don't believe in it, but I do. I'm buying in.
I like I said, I'm definitely buying in too. The thing that I'm looking at here though is what. The talent around him. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Well, you had...
And obviously they have music. Or not music, money.
Money, yeah. But
no.
I mean, they drafted Laviska Shenault last year.
Right.
Really good wide receiver from
Right.
Colorado.
They have Marvin Jones Jr. and DJ Chark as well. So they have 3 good wide receivers. Will he be able to elevate them? I think he can get more out of all 3 of them. If he can tap all of their potential in each of them, I think he's solid. And he's got James Robinson, who had a good season.
He
for
was
them as a
good.
running back.
Little tank.
We'll see how they are. There's no real tight end option there. Maybe
I think O'Shaughnessy.
They
got it.
O'Shaughnessy is he's their backup, but on the depth chart at least to Chris Manhurst, who I don't know who that is.
Yeah, O'Shaughnessy is a Florida State guy.
Right, that's why of course, Florida State. But it's going to be interesting to see how he does with the talent around him. I think he is a guy who has the chance to elevate guys.
He does.
So I'm not love to see maybe somebody a little better, but I mean, still, Chark has been pretty good the last 2 years. We'll see if they get the most out of Marvin Jones. It's just going to be interesting to see with that talent. But
so before we move on, I got to give you a pound, man. Your boy Minshew ain't going to get any run.
I know.
It's over. The Minshew era is over.
We die on this hill. It's over.
Yeah. R.I.P. Minshew.
Pour one out for Minshew Mania.
Yeah, it's over.
You and I, Mark will be like, you guys are idiots.
Yo, he performed his rookie year. I don't care what they say now. He was ass last year.
He did. That's why it's called Minshew Mania.
Yeah, that's what it was. All right, let's move on to pick number 2. And I think, there's a clear direction, a clear path. And the New York Jets are on the clock. They moved up to pick. Well, no, they were pick number 2 all along. But when they cleared room and moved out Sam Darnold, the pick, I think he was number 3 just a few years ago. And they really already paved their way, played their hand, and told you where they're going by opening that position for the next quarterback of their future, and it's going to be Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson, another guy. He's there's a guy. I'll give you a little Chris Collins, mannerism. But
now here's a guy.
He is. He's very. I want to say, there's some risk when you come with Zach Wilson. And really, I love what I see, but when you're coming from a school like BYU, you have some of the, metrics. He's a smaller quarterback, smaller hands, but he's athletic as can be. One of the best players that can throw on the run, really good arm strength. It's just the other intangibles I'm a little nervous about, and I'm just not sold on Zach Wilson's, full potential. I get it based upon, what he did in college, his completion percentage out of this world. And coming from BYU, that scares me a little bit. You'll hear me talk about, colleges later on and why that scares me if you don't have that, college pedigree. I agree with the pick. I'm just not so sure Zach Wilson projects to be an all-pro. But the Jets are the Jets, and they got to take the chance. So good pick by the Jets. It's just one of those where, jury's still out for me on Zach Wilson.
Of course it is.
He is.
Yo, Mark Drumheller in the house.
Yeah,
we made it for pick number 2. Come in the middle. Or are we worried?
I know, dude. You know what?
He's vaccinated.
So
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
So as Mark jumps in here, well, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I got lost, but I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm found, man. They found me.
Woodbury? You got lost in Woodbury?
You know
And
what?
you made it here?
I put in Cooper Street in Woodbury,
Yeah.
and it took me to like the mall.
Oh, yeah.
And I was
Deptford
yeah.
is Woodbury.
So I'm like, what the heck, man?
Yeah. Well, now you're here.
I am. I brought the hat, dude.
Yeah.
bringing it back.
So
Bring it back,
who'd
the
you
hat.
have pick number 1?
Pick number 1's Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
You're on our
Trevor Lawrence.
All
man.
right.
Shocker.
So we're on
Yeah.
2. Tommy Seen, what do you?
Being where he was
In the
he really,
competition.
in the competition that he's facing, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it is kind of crazy how this happens in the NFL. I mean, you can even say it happened with Carson Wentz, like these meteoric rises that these guys go on, because really it was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I mean, we were just talking about that recently, how those were the 2 guys, and now it's like Fields has dropped, Wilson's gone up, and then all of a sudden Mac Jones and Trey Lance have gone up, and Fields is going, like, it's still, you got that whole entire thing. So with Wilson, he's a prospect with a lot of pizzazz. I think he's a playmaker, but we don't know. Like, that's the thing. It's a risk. It is a big risk for the Jets, who kind of had all their ducks lined up in a row, and now, you're taking a risk at a quarterback. I mean, if it works, great. I don't know if it's going to work. I can see it kind of going in the same.
It's the Jets.
It makes the pick makes sense, but it has risk written all over to me too. Absolutely.
What are we on, Wilson?
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
Wilson at 2?
Yeah, we all.
No, he'll be out of the league in like 5 years.
Yeah, but I mean, he's
But I
going to
mean-
go too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
We're
yeah.
doing who we think.
Yeah.
Locked in,
But
yeah.
we're the same. I'm not really sold on Wilson. I just don't think that competition, the pedigree, and his size and metrics build up for a successful NFL quarterback.
Yeah, what's really scary to me is if you look at his splits from when he's faced good competition versus bad competition, it's staggering.
Yeah.
Like, he never plays well against anybody that's any good.
Yeah.
And, that he's going to face the toughest competition in the NFL. Listen, I don't think he's it, man. If you look at all his throws, he's just kind of throwing it up at the sidelines.
Yeah.
We made a ton of money off Coastal. They ate him up.
Ate him up,
He
the
couldn't
Black
do
Swarm.
anything. He couldn't do anything on offense. So, I think he's probably got the biggest bust potential out of the group. I think the Jets are making a huge mistake here, but that's what they do. That's the Jets. That's Joe Douglas, man. Rasul Douglas ain't on the board, so he's got to no Shelton Gibson. He's got to go get Zach Wilson.
And then when you look like Zac Efron, it ain't it for me, man.
That dude's soft.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I don't like him.
But I get it, and I will get, because there is that. I do think the ceiling is there. but it's the Jets, it's a New York media, and it's a guy that has question marks. I think he gets eaten alive.
Dude, he's like little Trubisky. He's like Walmart Trubisky.
It's very possible. And, when we're not saying this to be hard on him particularly, but the success rate of NFL quarterbacks picked in the first round is under 50%.
Sure.
So, in this draft, you're going to see 5 in the first round. We'll talk maybe 6. And you're lucky if 2 or 3 will make it.
Right.
So,
you look at it, even going all the way back to like the McNabb draft, like you really had 2, McNabb and Culpepper.
Yeah.
And he was, McNabb was the best, but you had Achilles Smith.
McNown.
You had McNown.
I love
Couch.
Cade McNown too.
You
Couch.
did?
Do you know what sold me on Cade McNown? Was that it was the bowl game or whatever, man, and he like they were getting smashed, dude, and they were getting crushed, and he came to the sidelines, threw up all over the place, dude, went back in, threw like an 80-yard bomb, and I was like, oh, dude.
That's my guy.
This dude's a killer. Yeah, I'm like, I said, that's what you got to do. You got to play through adversity.
That's you after tequila.
And he came sometimes, yeah. And he came to Chicago like he didn't stink. He already made it. And I think that was the biggest problem. I still remember them saying that, like, he'd be in practice and he'd be like, "Oh, look how pretty my spiral is."
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, that ain't the way to approach the NFL, man. They're gonna eat you alive, and they did. He was out of the league pretty quick.
Yeah, and I wasn't big on Rosen the other year.
Right.
And the way he reacted after he got drafted, I thought was just so immature. And look where he is now. It's you got to have the right mindset, and that sounds like what Cade McNown had. He didn't have the right mindset.
Yeah, he
and
definitely didn't.
I'm worried about Wilson. But let's go to pick 3. And Drums, if I have talked about this, the San Francisco 49ers on the clock. And Drums, to you, and I'll let you lead off. This is the moment in the draft where you think everything takes that turn, right or left, good or bad. What do you have the Niners at?
Yeah, I do. I think at this point, I'm pretty confident that they're going to pick Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that they're picking Mac Jones. I'm not even sure that Mac Jones is an NFL quarterback, to be honest with you. But they are convinced, apparently. I felt like Shanahan in his the last presser he had with Lynch, he kind of talked about, like, he was a little defensive, acted like he didn't need a mobile quarterback. I'm just shocked. I think that this pick is going to be very interesting in the fact that everybody was so dialed in that it was Mac Jones right away. And the leaks came out, and it was Mac Jones, and they're all over Mac Jones. Mike Lombardi from the jump was like, hey, it's Mac Jones. And he went on a tirade about Justin Fields' throwing motion, and it's definitely not going to be Fields. It's definitely going to be Mac Jones. And my whole thing is that, like, San Francisco never leaks information like that. And people, talk about Chris Sims, and Chris Sims is all over Mac Jones, and he's good friends with Kyle Shanahan. So my point is that if you look through history, like, we can go back to last year. Chris Sims pounding the table saying it was going to be Henry Ruggs. They were going to trade down and take Henry Ruggs at 20. He put in his mock draft. They were going to take Jerry Jeudy. Nobody was saying Kinlaw, and that's where San Francisco went. So I think it's, that's the pick in itself, I think, is fascinating. And if it is Mac Jones, it's Mac Jones. We move on, right? But the fact that, like, if it is Mac Jones and the fact that they let it leak this early, I think is really the most surprising thing.
Yeah.
Because they've telegraphed this from the beginning if it is Mac Jones.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, you look at Kyle Shanahan's profile, and we go back to his days with Atlanta and how Matt Ryan was a pocket quarterback. Pocket, get the ball out fast, quick, make good decisions. And he did that well under Shanahan's offense. You can go back to Kirk Cousins when Shanahan's was the coordinator in Washington. Very much the same. The only difference is Cousins and Ryan are a little bit more mobile than Mac Jones, right? They're able to run that misdirection, the bootlegs, and if you're looking for more mobility and that kind of play, you're probably looking at a guy, to me, like Trey Lance. I think they could gamble there. Having a guy like Garoppolo, I think, would give you that extra year or two to develop him. But like you said, in the end, I just believe the smoke signals. And it's tough to believe when, like you said, San Fran is a team that doesn't like to play their hand, but it's just too much smoke. It's too much. I go Mac Jones here. I think they really believe in that pocket value. I think they believe in the Alabama IQ. I think they believe in the meteoric rise he had. He wasn't even supposed to be the starter for Alabama last year, if you remember. But he played.
Saban knew he wasn't good.
No,
Shanahan never got the the memo. But it is interesting. Can you talk about Kirk Cousins? You talk about Matt Ryan and those guys, and that's really what killed them in the Super Bowl was the fact Matt Ryan's lack of mobility.
Yeah.
The fact that they couldn't, and it's just I think in this day and age to draft somebody like Mac Jones, like to me that's something that I would expect from the Bears. Like I wouldn't expect that from Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
But if you look back, Kyle Shanahan's the same guy who passed on Patrick Mahomes, passed on Deshaun Watson because he wanted to get Kirk Cousins a free agency. So, maybe, just because he's a great play caller, we can't assume that he's a great evaluator of the quarterback position.
You can't, but the best, one thing you heard, if you've listened to a lot of draft reports, a lot of stock out there, the player everyone was most impressed about the Senior Bowl this year was Mac Jones. It's not only his intelligence, it's his leadership. And those are qualities I think San Fran has fallen in love with.
I'm in lockstep with you guys. It's Mac Jones for me too. But the thing I think about why I believe the smoke, and it's just a quick point, is we already know what Jacksonville and New York are going to do. I mean, Jacksonville's a dead giveaway. Zach Wilson is, 99.9999% the second pick. So now they're not really competing with anybody because they traded up into that spot. So who do they need to play now? That's kind of my thing. I know NFL's definitely like a pissing contest and I don't want to let anybody know.
Awful early.
It is awful early for it to.
That the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson.
Right, and I think that's what they're afraid of.
I still can't believe they're going to take Zach Wilson.
Right. San Fran moved up before the Jets traded Darnold. I don't think they were convinced.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe that's why. But I
think maybe they thought they might get some Zach.
But I think at this point, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, because that would make more sense for the type of player that he is versus Mac Jones. Mobility.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, that's what the offense is predicated on.
Mac Jones wasn't even a top.
But you did last
pick.
week. I listened back, and you did say last week that who just won the Super Bowl? Tom Brady.
Yes, no.
And Tom Brady's an immobile 43-year-old quarterback. So
Look,
I mean, it kind of.
I will tell you right now.
Yeah, I'm not,
I like Mac Jones better than Zach Wilson. I like Mac Jones better than Zach Wilson.
I probably do too. But I think you're talking about.
But I mean, I think it's. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt. My bad.
I'm just saying you're probably like I like him too, but I also like Sidney Jones better than Lavert Hill. Like it doesn't, I don't really like either of them. But I do think that Zach Wilson probably has the biggest bust potential. Yeah. And it's not that I don't think Mac Jones has bust potential. I just think he is what he is. I think he'll probably be one of those average
middle
top
of the ground
20 quarterbacks.
Just hang up there.
He'll do just enough, but
his peak is 16.
In the playoffs, when teams send the pass rush, he's going to get crushed, and that'll be that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So now here's for me. Yeah. Now that we're still lockstep unison, pick 4 is where it all turns. And Thomasine, we talked about this before the show started. I think we're going to be a little bit in line here. So I'll lead off with you and let you announce the Atlanta Falcons pick and see if Drums agrees.
There's a couple different ways that Atlanta could go. They haven't really gotten to the pinnacle that they've wanted to ever since the Super Bowl when they lost to come back to New England. Could they go quarterback here? But they did sign Matt Ryan, but that's not like a full, true contract. It's more kind of, it was like a 3-year deal, but is it like a structured, a really structured deal? It's moving
I think it's this year and pretty much is.
So you think, do they go quarterback there? Do they go defense? But the thing is, this isn't really a year to go defense early on in the draft. There's no stud DNs that you take up early. And then, the last thing is, another thing could be do you go offensive lineman? Again, this is not really a huge draft for offensive linemen. It's Penei Sewell and everybody else, really. He's the only bona fide offensive line tackle. Maybe, but isn't he more potentially a guard than a tackle?
He could be.
He could be. Yeah. So, with all that being said, they give Matt Ryan a weapon, a great tight end, and they go Kyle Pitts here. To me, it doesn't make the most sense in the world, but I think it does make sense. There's not really a better option for them to get if they try and just put it together. If they don't trade Julio, they have a couple weapons for Matt Ryan this year and see if they can give it a shot. So Kyle Pitts is the guy there from Florida.
Drums, I talked to you about this on Saturday with betting for breakfast. It's Arthur Smith for me, a guy that's a young offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans and now get anointed as a head coach, a guy that's, kind of, invented an offense around Ryan Tannehill. We're talking Ryan Tannehill, right? And they were fantastic, whether it was in the run game, the play action, misdirection. They actually turned a few tight ends into something with Jonnu Smith and St. Ferkser. And I just think he could take Kyle Pitts to another level here, use him in so many different ways. He's that, genius, you could say, the young genius, the young whiz boy, the Sean McVays that they're always looking for. What better way to start your team with that kind of, Swiss Army knife? I just believe that's the way they're going to go. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, you'll get into what you think, but I do think that's where they go.
Oh my, yeah, I do too. I think that it's Kyle Pitts here. Initially, I thought that this was the perfect spot for teams to kind of trade up, and I felt like the quarterbacks would go pretty high in the draft. Initially I thought that Atlanta and Detroit were really the two spots and the two teams that really have to start over and kind of trade back. But as we get closer to the draft, more stuff is coming out that really they want to try and Atlanta, even with that defense, wants to try and make a run instead of rebuild with Matt Ryan in these last 2 years. And that kind of tells me that it would be Kyle Pitts. And not only that, just in conjunction with, I think what I was most surprised about is every year we hear about these receivers and their generational talents.
Yeah.
Like every single year. They're all generational talents. They're all the best we've ever seen. Yeah. Right, best route runner ever, And, they're not, right? Like wide receiver actually has the third lowest re-sign rate as far as second contracts in the NFL. So it's only like 27% since 2005 or something. So it typically hardly ever works out. But this is a situation I think that, so to me, I was kind of skeptical of the Kyle Pitts is a unicorn talk. Yeah. Like, oh, Kyle Pitts. I'm like, dude, this dude came out of nowhere. He's whatever. Like, he had a great year. I'm sure he has a great wingspan. And, is he going to be able to really transition in the NFL and be this dominant player? But as we got closer to the draft, I listened to a lot of people I really respect. And it does seem like the feeling is that this guy's like Megatron. Yeah. And he really is this generational talent. And if that's the case, I think that Atlanta at this point takes him, because I think with Denver making the trade for Bridgewater, they're not really in the market to move up. I thought that was kind of the sweet spot, is Atlanta could trade back, get a bunch of picks, and not really fall out of the top 10. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. So if they are going to have to trade out now, they're probably going to trade to the middle of the first round, which is something that's not appealing when Kyle Pitts is on the board.
And honestly, I've heard the price to get up to the Falcon spot. It's so high right now that, the Broncos are just like, we're done. And I think you kind of saw that today, right? With the Bridgewater move. And listen, if you're the Atlanta Falcons and you're sitting in the NFC South, you just saw Drew Brees retire. The Carolina Panthers are just still trying to find. You don't know what they're doing, right?
Well, they just got Darnold, so
we know. All right, and then
good luck.
Tampa's Tampa, and they're going to be good again, right? But it's 43,
they kind of rose up. It wasn't like they were the best team all year. They were very inconsistent. They got hot at the right time,
and they did. That's correct. But
I'm not saying they're not going to be.
I'm just saying if you're Atlanta, you could position yourself for second in that division with the right moves this offseason, and so I don't disagree with them. I think that is a good move, and I do think I have some action. Obviously, Kyle Pitts, I did take some action on to fall under pick 5.5 in the draft. I really like this spot. He goes here, and if he doesn't go here, he goes to Cincy at the next pick. But here we go. Cincinnati sitting at pick 5. Maybe this is the first time we'll see a little disagreement. I'm going to say that, it's not sexy. It's not the move that you would always, want to do if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, because there's Jamar Chase sitting out there. But it's a move they need to do to progress to be a good team in the NFL, and that's build that line in front of Joe Burrow. You already see him get hammered so many times last year. I think he was the most hit quarterback in the league until he blew out his ACL. And Penei Sewell is sitting there, a potential all-pro left tackle. It's that position that's so important anymore, one of the highest paid positions in football. I think they smarten up. They've already given the leash to their coach. That he was 2-14, now 3-13 or 3-12-1. Obviously not doing well, but still has the position because they know this is a long-term game. I think it's Penei Sewell here. How about you, Drums?
I think it's Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
And I was right there with you, like almost the whole way until probably about last week. And I just think that, what really kind of changed me is the fact that it is so deep an offensive lineman. Like they're projecting like 7, possibly 8 offensive linemen to go in the first round alone. So I think that their line of thinking is, hey, we can get Chase. We can make Burrow happy. I don't even think Chase fits the offense. I think he does a lot of things T. Higgins does. I mean, obviously, he does a lot more than T. Higgins does, but they're both kind of contested catch point guys. And, you look at the comps of Jamar Chase, and he's kind of like a Anquan Bolden with more speed, I heard. Michael Crabtree, I heard, right? Obviously, we hope he's going to be
good
better
players.
Than Crabtree. Right, great players, guys picked at the top of the draft, but not big separation. You know what I mean? And but, he has the relationship with Burrow. Burrow loves him. So I think they pull the trigger there. I think they can always trade back into the first round if they need to get an offensive lineman. But, and I think that they've spent a lot of draft capital on offensive. You look at their history, they're not really good at drafting offensive linemen. So, I mean, this is a slam dunk with Sewell, but I just think that it's all about Burrow, and I think they make the deal to get Chase, and they try and get the offensive line later.
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, pretty good at wideouts, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's a Bengals move.
It's
a Bengals move.
You have
I get
Chase, and you have Higgins on the outside, and you don't really have that. I mean, listen,
Boyd,
Chase
you
can
don't
get
need.
down the field.
Boyd's not a slot guy. He's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you're doing.
Right. I mean, they're probably going to do a lot of empty. I would think a lot of wide receiver sets,
Yeah.
But I think they do pull the trigger on Chase.
So,
it's hard not to.
Yeah. I'm with Dave. I'm Penny Sewell. It makes sense. They do have Joe Mixon, so they have a running back. They have wide receivers, as you guys have mentioned time and time again. And I think that actually public opinion actually helps here too, because there were fans actually clamoring for Sewell just because, especially the moment that Burrow went down with the ACL tear, they're like, we need to protect him. Like, why put all this capital that you invested? It's not really that much capital, but the first overall pick. Why would you not want to protect him when you do have some weapons? They're not the sexiest players, but it works. I think if Joe Mixon has a good line to run behind and, Burrow can last the whole season, and he showed skill. He showed talent.
Yeah.
He showed the ability, but he was just under duress the whole season. I think this is a slam dunk, as you said, for them to take Sewell here. So, I mean, it just makes sense, and public opinion can also help because there's actually been clamoring for it. And that, it's not like a move like where, like, we know, like, Howie Roseman would get
like
killed
Mac Jones
for it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, where the fan base wants to kill.
But I'm just saying, but, like, when a fan base actually, like, puts it out there that they want an offensive lineman, very rarely do you see that. And I think that could help a team that's been faltering a little bit. They don't get the crowds. I mean, obviously, nobody got the crowds this year, really. But in general, Cincinnati doesn't draw a lot of fans. If they can actually put a good team together with a good lineman, I think it helps.
Get them in there, man. I love it, dude. Listen, there's nothing more I want to see than Joe Burrow stay healthy. So
Right.
I think the NFL is a lot better place if he's healthy.
Oh, I
Sling
love
it
Joe
around.
Burrow. I love him. I really do, and I think he can be a successful quarterback. My concern is injury and age.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He's a little older.
Yeah.
As
He's
that,
not the strongest arm in the world either. But,
Right.
you
No,
don't
but
need it all the time.
it's that leadership quality I really do think he has. So listen, we're a little bit. The first one we go a little bit off track on. Let's get to 6 here. Miami Dolphins, and the reason this one's so important to me is because it's where the Philadelphia Eagles were picking before they made the trade with this team. And if in my mock draft, Jamar Chase would still be sitting there, and for that reason alone, I'm still pissed at the trade. And we've talked about this in detail. I just don't understand. Like, okay, Kyle Pitts, he rose up. We weren't going to get him. But if you would have looked back at it now and Chase is sitting there at 6, the equity you got back, I'm not sure it's going to be worth what you end up getting at 12. But with that said, Miami Dolphins are licking their chops. They did what they needed to do. They weren't going to go quarterback. They dropped back in the draft. They actually dropped back with San Francisco, right? San Fran was the team that they traded with, so they were at 3.
Yep.
Not going to try and waste draft equity on a receiver there. I get back to 6. And I get the number 1 receiver. I got the Dolphins going with Jamar Chase. It could be one of the Alabama receivers for sure because Tua has that history with them, similar to what you've talked about with Burrow and Chase. But when you look at the differences between Chase and Smith and Waddle, I think you're getting a more polished receiver for Tua Tagovailoa. And listen, he needs that, right? He needs a little bit of that security blanket. The guy struggled in his first year. He struggled transitioning the pros. Crazy to say, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was the better quarterback down there last year. But if Miami's going to go anywhere, it has to be with Tua. and Tua needs a little bit more help. And this is where they get it, and they get it with Jamar Chase, the best receiver prospect in the draft. Now, I know you already Chase is going on your board. What do you got with the Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if Chase is there, they take Chase. But if they don't, I think it comes down to the 2 Alabama receivers.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I think this part's fascinating because the issue with Miami last year and why Tua struggled is the receivers couldn't get separation. They got the least amount of separation out of any team in the NFL. And we watched some pretty bad receivers here in Philadelphia not get any separation, right? Miami was worse. Tua's throwing in the tighter windows.
Even with Devontae Parker.
Because he's just a jump ball guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the thing. He doesn't get separation. So when I see separation, I think Devontae Smith, right? Devonta Smith. He's the guy who's the fluid route runner. He can beat press. He can get that. So I think that they would take him here. But a lot of what I'm reading is they think that Jalen Waddle is a better fit there because he can play the slot. And they can stick him right in the slot. And, they already got their guys on the outside. They got Will Fuller. They got Parker. And then they can stick Jalen Waddle in the slot. So could be either. But I just think Devonta Smith is too big of a talent to pass up. So I would pencil me in for him, even though I think you figure out the slot receiver later. And if you're picking at 6, you got to get the best guy. And I'm not on this Jalen Waddle is better than Devonta Smith just because of a scale.
I'm with you. I would take Devontae Smith.
Yeah. 100%.
Is that wait?
No.
Chase.
Yeah,
If
I'm
you're
just saying
between the two guys.
I'm still.
Okay, yeah, that's
Smith
what I thought.
guy.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't have Chase on my board. So
right, so I have Chase on my board, and
Smith.
kind of not going to elaborate too much more on it, but it kind of just makes sense. You made those trades; it worked out where you do get assets, and you get to get the best wide receiver that we're looking at the draft. As long as he's there.
The funniest thing is if there's a way, like if they took Chase. Nah, I guess there's not a way. They're going to end up with one of them. But it's almost like I was thinking, I felt like if they have to take Waddle or Smith, I felt like they made that trade up thinking they could get Chase or Pitts.
Yeah.
They didn't end up doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people says them giving a first rounder to us was an overpay.
And in your draft,
move back up.
They don't get Chase or Pitts, and it's very possible.
Right.
The Bengals,
possible.
I'm just telling you what the Bengals should take, and
they
I just
could have
believe.
straight up had Pitts.
Straight up.
Right.
Straight up had Pitts if they didn't move.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, interesting.
So 7 is where I think a lot of us will really start to sway and move and swerve here.
Part of the draft.
So I'm going to lead off with drums. The Detroit Lions are on the clock. And listen, I think it's the first pick that you can really say trade. But we're gonna stick tonight with the Detroit Lions are picking this pick, and I'll start with you, drums.
Yeah, I would think it's Justin Fields. To be honest with you,
Local
I
guy.
think that,
Well, just Ohio State being. Yeah.
I be honest with you. I mean, if I'm them on the board at that point, I just get the quarterback. I don't believe that they believe in Jared Goff. I know that the GM is the guy who picked him in LA or whatever, and maybe they do, but I just think it's too big of an opportunity. You have a quarterback sitting there. I understand that you can get Slater. You can kind of build up the offensive line. Ultimately, I think they'll trade back, but I think if I do stay there, I think it'll be for the quarterback.
Yeah, and if they do trade back, you're possibly see Fields there anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. If someone's coming up to 7, they're coming up for someone like Fields or Lance at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have?
I actually have kind of a reach, if you ask me, but kind of the way that Dan Campbell is. I think they go with the next O-lineman available, and that's Rashawn Slater. A little bit of a reach for me just because I think I don't know if I said this on here before when we were talking, Dave, but I think it was on here regardless. Rashawn Slater has the possibility to be like a really good guard. I think he's not like a full certified offensive tackle, but I think that they're going to – because Detroit – and I agree also that I think they definitely are a trade candidate because – they're tanking essentially. I mean, they have Jared Goff. They're only, tied in for 1 year.
Yeah.
They're starting all over. They got a lot of picks back for him. They can really get some more equity by trading back because they know they're not ready. They know they're not there. So I kind of think that if they do stay, they go, start from the trenches and go out with Dan Campbell as the head coach. And I think if not, then they trade back for picks.
Good. We're all different. And listen, I think we all agree Jared Goff stinks, right? And, he's one of the most inefficient quarterbacks. He's just not good. But he got to a Super Bowl. So you can probably have a little bridge to the next guy for a year or two. And I think that's what they're looking at. So who's a guy that you could draft right here that you could sit on the bench for 2 years until Goff's out of there with the contract? That's Trey Lance. And I do think they take the high ceiling, high upside approach, take a shot on Trey Lance, let him learn under their system. You know, this is a new coaching staff. This is a new front office. And from that point, I just think if they're going to take a gamble, they're going to be drafting up in the top 5, 10 for the next 2, 3 years. You know, take it now, then build around him. Goff, let him go out there. He's kind of, you know, he's that frontline guy in Braveheart. Let him get slaughtered a little bit, you know, and build up Lance in the next 2 years. So that's where I feel like they go. Obviously, this is a team that could go many directions. I agree with Slater. I even think they could go wide receiver here. They just lost Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. So it's very easy to see them maybe going with the Alabama receiver here, but there's not many days you get to pick in the top 10 and have a pretty decent talent like that on the board. Both Fields and Lance, I think, it's a good risk there.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think when you look at it from the perspective of, I think a lot of people say, well, they're starting over, they're going to be up in the top 10. You hear so many people say, which it drives me nuts. Oh, well, if it doesn't work, you're going to be in the top 10 anyway. You just go get another quarterback. Well, all quarterbacks aren't equal year to year.
No.
The class next year is not supposed, and I know we say that every year, but the class next year is not supposed to be as strong as this year's class. Yeah. So I think that this is the year, if you're trying to get a young quarterback, you get one. And I just can't imagine being a new GM, finally getting your shot and having to rebuild the Lions, and it's bad enough you hired Dan Campbell, and now you're going to go out and plant your flag with Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Like, I can't see it. I think they go quarterback, you know, whether it's Fields or Lance. You know, I guess it depends on, you know, what they like.
Yeah.
But
you're not breaking any kneecaps.
Think you have to get a
with
quarterback.
Goff. What's his speech? You got to go out and break
you got to eat kneecaps.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're not doing that with Goff.
I mean, this dude's like, he thinks this is WWE.
Yeah. Yo, I mean, it's going to work for out there. It wouldn't work here.
It works for like 3 weeks, dude.
Yeah.
And then when you're 0-3, it don't work.
It don't work no more.
That's the problem. Same thing with, you know, Sirianni. We'll get to him, but
we will.
It works until you stop winning.
All right, we're 40 minutes in. Not bad. We're definitely going to get there. Let's move on to the Carolina Panthers, number 8. Another very perplexing team. Another team that, you know, has tried with all their might to try and get up higher for a quarterback that eventually said, I'm done. I'm going to settle on Sam Darnold. I'm going to move out my Teddy Bridgewater, which I just paid $40 million plus for. They've got my head spinning on what they're trying to do. Matt Rule, Joe, what's his name? Foley, Brady.
Brady.
Brady. You know, the geniuses that are.
Yeah.
Can't seem to really. They just seem stuck.
Perfect for college. Those guys are perfect for college.
Well, and they might be all right in the pros, but they're just stuck in
what they're running or what the ship they're running right now.
That's what I'm getting at.
It doesn't make sense.
They're kind of stuck in like what we'll call purgatory. They just they want to get up, then they can't. And they want to get back. They just it's the hardest piece to move, right? To get that franchise quarterback. I don't think they take it here, and I just don't. I think this is the point where we do see the first defensive player come off the board. And I believe that, you know, at first I was thinking they need to get Slater, but to protect Darnold? I don't think they care. And I think at this point, I think they take a surprise pick. They need some help in the defensive secondary. They were very bad in the past defensive game last year. And I actually think they go Patrick Surtain here if they stick here. They know they can't get him later. They've built 7 picks in this draft. They have a lot of draft equity. I think they want more. I think ultimately they will trade out of this pick. But we're picking where the picks are. That's where I go tonight. Drums.
Yeah, I think they go offensive line. Now, Sewell would still be on my board.
Okay,
So I think
there you go.
if he's there,
they're in love with him.
Jumps all over him, right? You know, without a doubt. Even if he's not, I think they probably go Slater here. I just think that Matt Rule's going to try and build it from the trenches out.
Yeah.
He spent, you know, I definitely could see them going cornerback. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. It's probably the direction they would go if they don't go offensive line. But I just think they spent the entire draft on defense last year. So I think they start to try and give them a little protection. And I think that Brady is, you know, this is some of the problem with some of the coaches in the NFL, I think, and this is how they get stuck in purgatory, is they get these quarterbacks and they say, I can coach them up.
Yeah.
You know, like Shanahan with Garoppolo, I can coach them up. You know, Brady with this Darnold, I can coach them up. And, in order, they know deep down inside, in order for that to happen, there needs to be perfect conditions around them. And that starts with the offensive line. So I think that they go Sewell here if he's still on the board. If not, Slater.
For me, this is a little surprising of a pick, I think, for the Panthers in this situation. But I think given the fact that they did trade for Darnold, they want to give him more weapons. I know they have DJ Moore and they have Robbie Anderson, but I think you put another wide receiver. I still have Jalen Waddle on the board there, so that's kind of the receiver that I would go there. He's a shorter receiver, so I think he could kind of take over where David Moore is in that spot for now, just to try and figure out where he is. I mean, right now you got Robbie Anderson running the fly. You got DJ Moore kind of doing the heavy work in the middle. You can kind of see you have a pivotal player in Waddle. I think, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but is Darnold's in his 5th year? Was it that the Jets, or is he in his 4th year?
I think he's 4th.
So then they still could pick him up for the 5th year. I think they're thinking if they can have success. I know you guys aren't high on him, and it's not that I'm high on him, but I think it kind of makes sense for them to do what they did because they didn't think the value was there to trade up. They didn't find it worth it. I think this kind of makes sense. You hope that Christian McCaffrey is healthy. They've made some decent draft picks on the defensive side of the ball, and you hope that they just kind of get it together. And I think Jalen Waddle gives them a slew of weapons for Darnold and give him the most opportunity for their trade, and then they could say that they outsmarted everybody by going after and getting Darnold and making it work with him. I just kind of think that that's could be this play for that.
Yeah, and listen, I was a big Curtis Samuel guy. I think you prefer him
and
well
I think
for them
that's
last year.
what I'm saying. I think the loss of him to Washington also changes things.
Not
Darnold's
bad.
4th year, by the way.
Yeah, 4. Cool,
yeah, so
cool.
they technically could, give him the option after this year.
Yeah.
So they have 2 years with Darnold.
Yeah,
He stinks.
yeah, he does.
They messed up. They screwed the pooch. They could have had a good quarterback in this draft, and they screwed the pooch.
That's the thing, because one of these, somebody's falling to them.
He's got rocks in his head. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
Darnold
what it
threw a
is.
party when he got traded from the Jets.
Yeah, he did.
It was
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
100%, man.
So listen, I don't disagree with you. I think Darnold, I don't think he's good, right? I thought coming into that draft he was going to be maybe the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in that draft. That's where I had him. But there's something to say about playing for the Jets. So I'm going to give him a year in a different system with a different
reserving.
coach.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing, though, and this is where I stand with Darnold, right? He got outplayed by Flacco. Very obviously.
He did.
Like it wasn't close.
But
like
Adam
the
Gase
offense
gave
with
up.
Flacco, the offense with Darnold, completely different.
I get it.
Much better with Flacco. Same team, same circumstances, same everything. And Flacco sucks.
Yo,
Sucks.
Yeah,
he
Like
might,
not top 50.
but he might start for us. So let's go with the number 9 pick in the draft. And again, another position where this could go all haywire, but it's the Denver Broncos, Drums' favorite team. So why don't I lead off with you? John Elway said, fuck it, I'm going to take a step back. He ain't taking shit back. He's still making the pick. But he said he's taking a little step back.
I think he did take a step
Yeah?
back. I think the owner
It
was
told him.
about to can his ass.
Yeah, so listen.
It said don't make me the bad guy in public. Just
You wanna-
move over.
You want to talk about quarterbacks that suck?
Mhm.
Drew Lock
Sucks.
So, Drums, with that said, what do you have at pick number 9?
This is a
You got
tough
Lance
one.
still on the board?
There's a lot. Now I don't think they do it. I don't think they go quarterback here, and
Wow.
the reasoning being is that I don't like. I just don't get the impression that you would make that deal for Bridgewater to go quarterback here.
Yeah, you do.
Like it
It's a
doesn't-
six-
Oh, you get rid? No, you get rid of Lock. You're like Deuce's Lock.
I don't think they're going to get rid of Locke. I don't think
might
they
have
are.
some kind of battle there.
Yeah, I don't think they are. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They know they probably can't really trade Locke, so I mean,
They got a
maybe-
lot of offensive talent.
Maybe they do, but I think it's really possible that they go. They could go Parsons here,
that's the other one.
or
that's
they
all.
could go cornerback. And I think that, God, are they really going to take Parsons? Like,
That's what I've been seeing.
yeah, I know it's hard because like
They're a team like that, right? They take Chubb the one
their
year.
defense is going to
Yeah.
be so good next year to get everybody healthy.
Yeah.
But do they go corner? I think they could possibly go corner too. But I'm going to say Parsons. Just slot him in. I think that's what that deal's about. They go out and get Bridgewater, and they want Parsons.
Now I'm going to kind of go with the same scenario that Dave had for Detroit. This is Denver, they just trade for Bridgewater, and they only gave up a 6th-rounder for Bridgewater.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't anything that they invested. So here's a situation. You have a top 10
Here's
pick.
the guy.
Now here's a guy from North Dakota State University.
Oh!
Trey Lance, I think they go with him, and I think they take the shot. They can afford to have a little competition. Maybe they have a 3-way competition, but Drew Lock's out on that one. I mean,
like
it's good.
three-ways.
There you go. So, I mean, I think it's Bridgewater's job to lose, obviously. You let Lance just follow in the same footsteps as Bridgewater and see what happens there. They have a lot of weapons, and they have time at this point that they can – it's not a huge need right now that they need to win. They're not in win now mode.
Yeah. So for me, Justin Fields is still left. I like Justin Fields in this pick. One of my favorite bets of this whole draft is Justin Fields. It's now risen to over 7.5 where he goes. I feel like where there's smoke, there's fire. We talked about it a little earlier. There's just been too much smoke on Justin Fields. I like the odds. You can go William Hill. You'll get plus 110 at over 7.5. DraftKings, you're actually at even odds. Yes, good chance he goes before then, right? There's a lot of teams that probably are lurking and can move up and take him. But with the way the draft is structured right now, I don't see any of the teams inside the top 8 taking him. But this is a perfect chance for the Broncos. Perfect fit. I think a guy that can move on the run, throws a great deep ball. That's the best thing about Justin Fields. And when you have guys like Jerry Jeudy, you have guys like what's the cat that got hurt?
Hamler.
Hamler.
Well, no Hamler.
Noah
The guy from SMU.
Oh,
that got hurt.
Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton. Guys that can stretch the field. Yeah, you talked about the tight end, Noah Fant. These are burners, man. And I think he fits this offense really, really well. I think this is a great spot for him, too. I think it's a place he can grow. Justin Fields, for me, the Northwestern game, 12 for 27, 2 interceptions, 120 yards, really stood out. And it told me that he needs to go in a place where he can get the right coaching, the right nurturing, and the right people around him. And if they put him, it's like Russell Wilson to me. And he's not, he's a little bigger, don't get me wrong. But Russell Wilson went in the right place where Pete Carroll believed in him. You get the right people around Justin Fields, I think he can see. You put him in a pressure situation where he's that guy and you just kind of give him the torch. I'm a little worried. I also tell you about Ohio State quarterbacks. Tell me one that's good. I'm still waiting. There's none.
Yeah.
There's just none. And I know he was a Georgia guy before he came to Ohio State, right? I know he's been a top prospect in the league. So I'm cheering for Justin Fields. But in the end, he needs to be in the right situation. I think Denver would be a great situation for him.
Agreed.
Yeah. Maybe a North Dakota quarterback that's good.
No. Wait.
He's been waiting on that one.
Yeah.
He's been waiting on that one.
But they're not Ohio State.
No, I know. And let's keep in mind like how this thing happens, right? Like even, Patrick Mahomes went 10th, right?
Oh,
He wasn't smart enough to be an NFL
Where was
quarterback,
Watson?
and
7?
Watson was 12th.
12.
Remember,
right.
he wasn't a winner.
Yeah.
He went out there too small, wasn't a winner.
I mean, he only went to 2 national championships.
Rodgers was 24.
Yep, Rodgers was
So
24. So
where you go doesn't it?
And that's kind of and that's an interesting point, not about Trey Lance is that's why I projected initially like these quarterbacks to go so high, thinking all 5 would go probably in the top 7. Now I've since backed off that because some of these teams have kind of shown their cards that these trades probably aren't going to be happening for these quarterback needy teams to get in there. But I felt like that Josh Allen's success in the NFL kind of showed people that hey, you can bank on a player who didn't play anybody in college, just has the raw physical tools, doesn't really, didn't show the capacity in college to pick up pro style offenses, all those things. Like you can pretty much, like Josh Allen said, hey, you can draft this guy just based on a big old arm and mobility. And I thought that spoke volumes for the quarterbacks in this class. That teams would be willing to go up and pay because they see that success story. It's almost like Russell Wilson with the height thing. Like once you break that wall and show that it can work, you would think teams would gravitate towards that. And I'm honestly shocked that there's not more steam on these quarterbacks going early in this draft. But it kind of is what it is.
And I know you're big on Fields. I think you think he's probably the second best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, I think he could be the. Listen, a lot of it depends on landing spot. Like I
that's
think
what I'm
Trevor
with
Lawrence
Fields.
might be the most talented, but I think he's going to crash and burn with Urban Meyer. I mean, that's a terrible spot. Like Urban Meyer's going to quit in a year and a half.
Yeah,
they're going to be a disaster.
Well, Jacksonville
Like,
never
it's
wins.
just- right.
Yeah.
So like that's so I think that there's definitely space for one of these other quarterbacks to hop in and be the cream of this class because I'm not a believer in Urban Meyer, not a believer in Jacksonville.
Who was Jacksonville's quarterback when they went to the AFC Championship?
Mark Bruno.
No.
No, it was Bortles.
Bortles.
Recently.
Yeah.
I thought you meant back. Yeah.
Okay.
Blake Bortles.
I totally
Bortles.
forget that.
Yeah.
It shows
Yeah,
where we're
they
at.
beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
And they were actually up at New
in
England
New
at
England.
halftime.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It was
Another
that
guy,
defense.
I mean, big.
It was
you know,
the Jalen Ramsey.
They had a great
yeah.
defense.
big
Miles
arms,
Jack.
ability.
Yeah.
They're like, hey,
Hot
that's enough.
girlfriend.
Let's put the card in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right. So listen, we're 2 picks away, right? Really 1 pick away, and we got about 10 minutes left. Let's rip it. New York Giants, real fast. Let's go around.
Oh, wait. Dallas.
Oh, Dallas. I'm sorry.
We have 2 picks.
Dallas and the Giants. Dallas. I'll rip real fast. Worst defense we've ever seen. One of the worst in NFL history. For me, he's still on the board. J.C. Horn, Dallas, cornerback. Not a great thing for the Eagles, by the way.
No, this is not. So I'm going to carry the torch here, and I'm going to go with the guy that I really want most out of anybody, Patrick Surtain, cornerback from Alabama. I mean, really, you need that back there. They've always had just meddling cornerbacks. I think Patrick Surtain is the best defensive product just because of what he can do in the draft.
I'm going to change my last pick. I don't think they take Parsons.
Okay.
I think they go corner. So pencil me in for Surtain to Denver, and then Horn here for Dallas. I just think I heard some bad things about Parsons, man, and I know
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Like as
know
a person.
that-
As a person.
Yeah.
Well, just like coaches saying that like you don't want this guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And like that's I think it's rare. So I do think they go corner there. And then I think Dallas, it's the run on corners, and then Dallas gets Horn.
Yeah.
I think if Dallas gets first pick, they'll probably take Surtain.
Yeah,
Kind of go
I
back
agree.
and forth on that, but
They're kind
um,
of both.
But
yeah.
I think Surtain goes first. I know it feels like Dallas is the first cornerback spot, but for some reason I feel like Surtain just goes right before. I do.
Yeah, I actually think Denver trades out, and I think that's maybe why they made the trade. Today.
Yeah. And that's where New England
Because
probably
they're
pounces.
Right, because they're probably, which is fascinating too, because depending on who's on the board, because this like Justin Fields to New England talk is insane to me because, the torch carrier for the Mac Jones pick is Mike Lombardi.
Oh,
From
yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah.
And he specifically said there is no way New England is in on Justin Fields.
Yeah.
No way. And he was very adamant. And now you're hearing that rumor. So it's like, and he's very plugged into New England.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Fields in New England, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting because all these guys, like, keep in mind too, this is the other thing is like, they're all wrong every year.
Yeah.
Like last year, Lombardi was stomping his feet that and I'm not saying the guy doesn't do a great job. I'm not saying he's not plugged in.
No,
Obviously,
but
he's been in the NFL for years. But the whole thing was Tua sliding. Tua's
Yeah.
going to slide past Miami because of the medical.
Well, it's like
And
forecaster.
it was Herbert.
It's like
It was
weather
Herbert,
forecasters.
Herbert to Miami. Tua's going to slide. Same thing with Chris Sims. Chris Sims had Tua like 15th in his mock.
Yeah.
Like Tua slide in. Tua slide. Never slid.
Right.
No slide.
Weather forecasters get paid to tell us it's going to snow when it doesn't, and draft guys get paid to tell us that this guy's going to go here, and they don't.
Like the one guy.
And
what's
the
his
draft
name?
guys never think anybody sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like who was the guy that was Ken Carmen or whatever? Or he's a radio guy in New York, and he put out a notes that he had from like the year that like Baker and Darnold went,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hilarious. Like if you look it up on Twitter, because it's like every other day they're like, oh, the pick is Darnold. They met with his family.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the pick is Mayfield. Oh, Josh Allen's going to go number 1 to Cleveland, and then they're going to try and take Barkley. Like
Right.
it was hilarious because it was every other day you had the dates and the stories were changed. And it's Schefter, it's Rappaport, like it's all. You know what I mean?
Well, because then they can go back and say, yeah, I got it right.
I told you on
Yeah,
March
yeah,
27th
yeah,
I said
yeah,
this.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
such bullshit.
Yeah.
So Giants at 11. Listen, I'll lead off with the Giants because I'm telling you right now, they're not going to go wherever you think they're going to go.
Right.
They are the worst. Like they just are absolutely the worst at projecting. For me, I think actually for them right now, I think they should probably go Parsons here. even a Rashawn Slater because I still have him on the board. But I'm going to go with they're going to go wild and go upside. They're going to go Kwity Paye here, defensive end from Michigan. I just, I've even seen them go as far as Ojulari, the guy from Georgia, who's being projected down as far as early second round. Like, I've seen so many wide-ranging picks from the New York Giants, but the New York Giants have done one thing, and they've always gone with their board. And Gettleman's still there. He won't trade out of this. We've heard the rumors, or the stories that doesn't trade down. But he damn sure takes some wild picks. And I think Kwity Paye's got a lot of upside, very athletic. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Jason Pierre-Paul when they took the risk there many, many years ago. I don't know. It just feels like a Giants pick. I'll go Kwity Paye.
It's not bad. It's not bad, and because I think edge rush is a need, but I also I have Slater still on my board.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets by here. I just think that their offensive line is so bad.
I agree.
And they picked. But
it's the Giants.
It was loaded.
It was Eric Flowers
with tackles last year. I know, and they picked the wrong guy.
Yeah.
They picked and they picked him 4th overall. And I think they go back to the line. No, they took Thomas, the kid from
Yeah.
He's been I don't want to say he's been a nightmare.
But Flowers they took a couple years ago and screwed up, right?
Yeah.
And I think Gettleman does it again. I think he takes the offensive lineman because I think if you're going to evaluate Daniel Jones, they went out and they got him Galladay.
Yep.
Right? What I mean? They have Slayton, who I think is good.
He is
have
good.
Shepard, who I think is good.
Evan Ingram.
The only thing, right? They have Barkley getting healthy. The only thing that prevents them, we talk about this with Jalen Hurts. Like the only thing that prevents them from giving him a fair evaluation is that offensive line.
Yep.
So I think they do it. If I was them, I would take any quarterback that's left, but because Daniel Jones sucks. But
You've been on that train since day one.
Yeah, he's awful, man. Talk about a wasted pick.
Dave, get out of my head because I also took Kwity Paye.
Wow.
It just seems like a Giants pick for me.
That's
it does.
What
It seems like they valued their defensive line, obviously. Like when you look at their 2 Super Bowls that they won a long time ago, they love athletic defensive linemen, especially a guy like this. And I see with Joe Judge, he's very big on defense. And I think that's kind of something that New England did. They always built a defense up too.
Yep.
And I think he thinks he has enough, and they put a lot of stock into offense this year in free agency. So to go out and get a game-changing type of defensive end, this makes sense for Kwity Paye. There's a lot of talk about even the Eagles being in love with him and stuff like that. This seems like kind of a Giants move.
I would punch Howie Roseman in the face if I saw him, if we took him. But here we go. Pick 12, and we're wrapping up the show. But, hey, got a few minutes to just analyze this, and this is what we do. Can't wait till tomorrow night when the NFL Draft is live on ESPN down over in Cleveland, and it's a dream scenario for me. I was a little bummed Saturday when we had our talk and what was left. But for me today, if you give me this right now, I run to the bridge and I start waving my Eagles flag. I start showing my Philly special. I'm pumped. And I got the Eagles here at 12. They got their pick of Alabama receivers. And I'm going Devontae Smith. He is the Heisman winner. He is a sharp route runner. He is just that guy. He's such a good person. He's so smart. You can build around this kid. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a team. And look, I get what Jalen Waddle might be a little faster, might have a little more twitch, might be the most dangerous guy in space, but give me that guy that I can bank on. I took that risk last year with Jalen Reagor. I'm not taking it again. I'm taking the best guy. And to me, it's Devontae Smith. He won a Heisman for a reason. That's my pick here at 12 for the Eagles. And I'll be pumped because I would have taken him at 6.
Yeah, I agree. If he's on the board, definitely grab him. He wouldn't be on my board. I have him going to Miami at 6.
Yeah, he
would have been.
Yeah.
So it would be Jalen Waddle.
But still good.
For me. But, yeah, absolutely. And I think that it is the position that they should be targeting. If a guy like J.C. Horn is on the board, you have a tough decision. But, I just don't know if Howie Roseman is ready to put himself in a position of drafting a player that you're not going to see an immediate return on. And that's what you get with cornerbacks in the NFL. And it's hard because you're looking at wide receivers, and I talked about their bust rate is so high. Like
they are.
Only 27% of them get that second contract, right? That is a low number, and, you look at, but the cornerback position, you never get an immediate return. Like you look at, with the guy last year from Ohio State, Jeff Akuta.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Detroit.
They
Yeah.
all struggle. They
Mhm.
all struggle, and especially a guy like J.C. Horn, who's handsy in press, definitely going to struggle. We saw that with Trey Waynes early in his career, guys like that. So I mean, I think that you have to get wide receiver because you got to get an immediate return. And I think there's going to be guys on the board. So I think how he played his cards right with, hopping back, and whether it's Waddle or Smith, I think
Either
both
one.
are good enough.
Either
Yeah.
one's a win if you get from 6 to 12 and they're there.
Yeah.
Either one.
I mean, give me Jalen Waddle in the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Right.
that. Even though I think Smith's going to be way better pro, but
I
I
think
think what fans need to kind of realize is that you don't need to have the best wide receiver on the field.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you just need to have a bunch of guys who can get
Guys who can do it.
open. Yeah.
Guys
you know
who
what
can
I mean?
play the
Get open
position.
consistently, and I think you're good with Waddle there.
I mean, I would love. I'm in lockstep in the fact that I would love Smith and Watt. Either of them, I would definitely be pumping my fist. The fact that they trade back, because the whole thing is like, you look at it and it kind of was a good year for them to trade back because there's going to be a run on quarterbacks. Like most likely 5 quarterbacks are going to go. So there's 7 non-quarterbacks. I said this last week, who are going to be in front of the Eagles. So now they have the 12th pick, but at the value. But they can get a top 7 guy that's not a quarterback because they apparently don't need one. I'll say this. My pick here is J.C. Horn. I think they lose out in the Surtain sweepstakes.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either.
Yeah,
because
I could live with
he's the more physical cornerback.
Horn, Surtain, Smith, Waddle.
Any
Take any.
4 of them, you absolutely
Yeah.
take. I mean, my thing is I would like Surtain because I think he's proven it, especially against the best competition. And that's my whole thing is that it kind of like is what didn't happen with Jalen Reagor. The fact that he didn't do it against good competition. He didn't even have good stats against bad competition. Really, last year, I know a couple years ago he was fine. But you look at and the reason why I think they don't go wide receiver here is because I don't think they want to take a wide receiver in the first round 2 years in a row after busting on Reagor. Not saying that he's going to be a bust, but looking at what they have with him right now, I think that's kind of a Howie ego thing, saying like we can't try and fix our mistake from last year. That's the only reason why I think that they don't go wide receiver and they go cornerback over the wide receiver. I would be plenty happy with either of those guys.
But if it is Jalen Hurts and you need to build
But they're
around.
stubborn. They don't invest in wide receivers much either.
Is right,
when they
but
need
the
to.
only thing to keep in mind is this guy they hired too is loves wide receivers.
Good.
Like, he'll tell you and shake the camera.
Right, but then
Yeah.
you look at
I
the
love
defensive
wide
coordinator. He's very good with defensive backs. So if you can shore up that defensive backfield now, Anthony Harris and stuff like that, you kind of put yourself in a position to have a better defense.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
We got 1 minute left. Let me just ask you guys this. Second round. They're going to have a big opportunity in the second round. I want to post some stuff, but hey, any guys you're eyeing up in the second round, they're sitting there at pick 5 in the second round. I'm going to tell you 2 I'm really in love with. If somehow Gregory Rousseau, the defensive end from Miami, does slip to there, love it. He's a guy, I think he started in Temple, actually, and moved down to Miami. I got to go back and check that. But anyway, very athletic defensive end. If not, Zaven Collins, I was in love with. I bet the Tulsa Hurricanes almost every day last year. He's a fantastic linebacker. I know the Eagles won't take a linebacker, but this guy is a game changer at inside or middle linebacker. Those are 2 that I would drop dead over.
Yeah, I like Collins a lot. I just think that it's going to kind of depend. If they go wide receiver,
That's
then
why
it's like, do they go corner round 2? Like, that's kind of the question.
Yeah,
to
and
me.
then you have a few names.
And would they do that over linebacker? Because if you look at the depth chart, like, I think Lavert Hill's like their 4th corner. Like, they have, like, Maddox.
Yeah.
Like, it's thin.
So Eric Stokes out of Georgia?
Eric Stokes out of Georgia, if he's there, would be a guy. But I would probably target that position. But, I mean, if they drafted Collins, I'd be ecstatic.
I just think he's a
he's
game
all over the place.
changer. Yeah.
I think the thing is it's quarterback, wide receiver most likely. I think that would be the smartest thing.
Because
if they
you
do,
just took
if they do one, but yeah, even the other.
Round
So
2
like
quarterback. Let's go.
no, not again. But I would say Terrence
Kellen
Marshall
Mond time?
from LSU
I love Terrence
would
Marshall.
be a big wide receiver to get if you go cornerback.
No
or even
lie.
a guy like Asante Samuel Jr.
And I know
Or
this
they trade up into
this
the
might
first.
sound crazy. Marshall could end up as a better pro than Chase.
It's
now,
possible.
I don't. I know Chase is awesome.
He's got more of the production.
Man, I saw Marshall play some games this year
Yeah.
with freshman garbage quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm just telling
I
you.
think it's a foot though. There's questions about the medical. I think he's
Yeah.
riding out, which is why he'll be in round 2.
Right.
Yep.
So you got to make sure that that's good because we know we don't have the best doctor.
And there's always that option of
we don't have the best doctor.
maybe Ertz going to Buffalo and doing a little package that gets them back up into the first round. So you could see
Late
a guy
first.
like
Yep.
Asante Samuel if they go wide receiver.
Florida State.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Asante
That's your
Samuel
boy.
Jr.
It's
Hey,
your school.
look, we wanted to do a little more on the Eagles tonight. We tried, but this
There's
was
so
so
much.
good just talking NFL draft. It was the thing, Drums, we talked about earlier. It was the thing that brought us back from the pandemic last year. The NFL did such a good job with their draft, and this year I think it's going to be exponentially better with the fans there. Cleveland, it's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. Obviously, Goodell will get booed, but it's going to be just awesome. And listen, it starts tomorrow night. We're right there in the mix. We're sitting there at 12. Who knows? Could be a move up. Could be a move down. A lot of pieces in play. But we'll be online. We'll be chatting. We'll be talking. Check for us. 4th and Go Twitter. 4th and Go Instagram. Guys, fun time tonight. Can't wait, right?
Yeah, I had a blast, man. I can't wait till Thursday night. It's going to be
I wish we had another hour for a night like this.
I know, but TK needs his cat nap. So let's run it back to the studio. TK, thanks for producing. Until next week, we are 4th and Go Philly 4 for 4 plus more every Wednesday night. Wildfire Radio, we're deuces.